My name is Ezra Bridger.
How's it going, everyone? I'm Keegs, and today I want to talk about Ezra Bridger. Now, this is a character that I think is going to play a huge role in the upcoming Star Wars universe, and if you haven't seen Rebels, you might be thinking, who the heck is that, and why is he going to play such a big role in the upcoming universe? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about, so let's get into it. Ezra Bridger was a boy born on the planet Lothal, and like any good superhero, at a young age, his parents were killed. His parents would speak out against the Empire in an underground public broadcasting radio, and by the time Ezra was 7, the Empire finally tracked down his parents and took them away, leaving Ezra to fend for himself since age 7. He would go on to meet a local pawn shop owner who would teach him how to become a pickpocket, and this is how he would really get by for the next 8 years. One day he encountered a group of people attempting to steal speeders with cargo attached, and while they were busy, he jumped on one of them and stole it from the thieves. A large chase began, and the thieves ended up saving Ezra from an Imperial TIE fighter, where he would eventually learn that these people are rebels. He was introduced to Hera Syndulla, Kanan Jarrus, Zeb Orreilios, Sabine Wren, and their astromech Choopper. Aboard their ship, he stumbled into Kanan's room only to find a holocron and a lightsaber, and learned that Kanan was actually a former Jedi Padawan that had fled after Order 66. Ezra helps the rebels save some Wookiees, and then sneaks away to his hideout with Kanan's lightsaber. Kanan easily follows him and confronts Ezra, saying that the Force is strong with him, and if he wants,
you can keep the lightsaber you stole, let it become just another dusty souvenir. Or you can give it back and come with us. Come with me and be trained in the ways of the Force. You can learn what it truly means to be a Jedi.
Ezra enjoyed helping the Wookiees and how it made him feel, so he takes the opportunity to join the rebel crew known as the Spectres, and is given the codename Spectre 6. His first few missions are a bit rocky, really, and he ends up clashing personalities a lot with Zeb. On one mission, Zeb and himself encounter a farm that was ravaged by the Empire, and the farmers taken hostage. Ezra knows the farmers as friends of his parents, so he feels personally angry. Zeb and Ezra end up attempting to rescue them, and in the very end, they start to form a respect for one another. Ezra was initially interested in the Mandalorian Sabine, though she would constantly brush him off and tell him that she was not interested. On the other hand, Kanan's training as a Jedi was also coming along quite slowly. Eventually, Kanan believed that since he himself had never finished training and was still a Padawan himself, that he wasn't the right person to train Ezra, and they went on a mission to find another Jedi Master who could train him instead. Ezra was really unhappy about this and felt abandoned again, as he felt like he was just being pawned off. But once they arrived to rescue the alleged Jedi Master, they quickly realized that it was a trap set by the Empire, and Jedi Master Luminara was long since dead. They were confronted by the Grand Inquisitor, and because Ezra was still very young and untrained, he was really not able to hold his own against the Grand Inquisitor at all, and only by Kanan and Ezra learning to work together and start to form a real master-apprentice relationship were they able to narrowly escape. They would go on many more missions, and as Ezra's training continued, he began becoming stronger in the Force. He shared a few moments of his past with Sabine and told her how his parents were taken from him by the Empire.
My folks used to do underground broadcasts from here speaking out against the Empire. It's probably just one of them.
Because he had experienced such great loss in losing his parents and feared losing his new family among the Spectres too, he would occasionally start tapping into the dark side of the Force. On one particular mission, Ezra summoned a giant Frynok to attack the Grand Inquisitor, which really caught the attention of Kanan. Kanan was scared that because Ezra was demonstrating these dark tendencies, that he either wasn't a good enough trainer or Ezra shouldn't be trained at all. He would take Ezra to a Jedi temple on Lothal where he could figure out if training was the right path for Ezra or not. Ezra entered the temple and was confronted with losing all of the people he cared about, and eventually Master Yoda would appear. Yoda questioned Ezra and would get to the bottom of why he wanted to become a Jedi after all. At first, he had vengeance on the top of his mind and just wanted to become strong in the Force to make the Empire suffer the way he did, but eventually Yoda was able to dig a little deeper and realize that Ezra is really someone who just wants to protect the world and the people in it. Yoda was cautiously optimistic about the boy, and the temple in turn bequeathed him his own Kyber crystal. Excited by this, Ezra could not wait to construct his own lightsaber, and he spent weeks building it, and when he was done, not only was it a functioning lightsaber, but he had incorporated a stun blaster into it as well. This is actually one of the things that I really love, because Ezra was a kid from the streets that's gotten by using stuns his whole life. I love that he incorporated this part of his personality into his lightsaber, and it not only had amazing practical uses while in a fight, it was uniquely Ezra's. Because Ezra is so strong in the Force, he would occasionally have an ability where he can see very brief snippets of the future. In one of these visions, he sees himself rescuing a man named Gall Travis who was captured for speaking out against the Empire, which is kind of a soft spot for Ezra since it reminds him of what happened to his parents and what they used to do. So he then goes to convince the Spectre crew that they need to go save him. Kanan warns that Force visions are inherently unreliable and they don't always mean what you think they do. However, Ezra decides to trust his instincts and go after Travis anyways. Unfortunately, Kanan was right and Travis sucks because he reveals that he's a trap used to lure rebellion sympathizers. He ends up capturing Kanan, but the rest of the crew gets to escape. A mysterious informant named Fulcrum tells Hera that it's too dangerous to try and rescue Kanan, but the rest of the Ghost crew ignore her orders to stand down and hire a local smuggler named Vizago to smuggle them onto Lothal, only to then discover that Kanan was being transferred on Grand Moff Tarkin's Star Destroyer, Sovereign, to none other than the planet Mustafar. The crew is able to break into the Imperial ship, and Ezra breaks off from the group and is able to free Kanan, but on their escape route they run into the Grand Inquisitor. A battle ensues, and at one point Ezra is knocked off a platform, causing Kanan to believe Ezra to be dead and uses that emotion to focus himself and defeat the Grand Inquisitor, though ultimately the Grand Inquisitor would throw himself into the fire pit below in order to avoid the wrath of Darth Vader. Immediately after that, Ezra reveals himself to still be alive, of course, and they're able to escape the sinking ship. Back aboard their ship, Fulcrum shows up revealing to be that of Ahsoka Tano, and she explains to them that they're actually just one of many rebel cells Bail Organa has been slowly organizing. Weeks later, Ezra returned to Lothal to see that the Empire had increased their control and the people were suffering a lot for it. However, after the Empire killed the minister of the planet and blamed it on the rebels, the people of Lothal turned on the rebel force, forcing them to flee. Because the ports were locked down, they went to steal an Imperial shuttle, but immediately sensed an overwhelming dark presence. Darth Vader had arrived in one of the most badass entrances ever. I want to say a fight broke out, but it definitely was not a fight. It was Kanan and Ezra flailing while trying to get to the shuttle. Darth Vader tossed them around like ragdolls, but through some explosions that knocked down a walker onto Vader, they were able to buy themselves a few minutes to escape. When Ezra asks how to fight Vader, Kanan just flat out replies,
How do we fight him?
Fight him? Ezra, we were lucky to survive.
The rebels are in desperate need of a new base, and at one point Ahsoka directs them to find her old friend Rex, a former soldier in the Grand Army of the Republic, and a clone. There they meet not only Rex, but Gregor and Wolf, and are able to eventually recruit them into the rebellion. Ezra's training would continue, and eventually he was sent on a mission to receive some medical supplies on an abandoned ship where they would run into two more Inquisitors, the Seventh Sister and the Fifth Brother. These Inquisitors were not as well trained as the Grand Inquisitor, but they were extremely aggressive and still dangerous, and at one point they had captured Ezra and Sabine, but did not kill them because they were really trying to find where the rebellion was, but not only that, specifically where Ahsoka was. With Zeb's help, Ezra and Sabine were able to escape and alert Hera and Kanan that there were more Inquisitors running around. Ezra would continue to go on missions and grow his skills not only as a Jedi, but as a warrior and a rebel. Eventually, Ahsoka would discover that the Empire was stealing Force-sensitive babies and send the Spectres to go investigate. They found the Inquisitors attempting to steal the babies and did everything they could to return them safely, but ultimately they were outmatched by the two Inquisitors. But before the Inquisitors could do anything about it, Ahsoka appears from behind them and battles the two Inquisitors, which she absolutely dominates, and is able to make a quick work of them in this amazing scene.
You are beat.
A few weeks later, Ezra has a Force vision of his parents and a white Lothcat, and when he tells Kanan and Hera, they reveal that they learned a little while ago that Ezra's parents were alive and imprisoned, though through their best efforts they were not able to locate them. Kanan was able to instruct Ezra to revisit the vision and saw a prisoner that might have information on Ezra's parents, so the crew took off to find this prisoner. When they get to Lothal, Ezra sees a white Lothcat, which they follow until they see a man which Ezra recognizes to be Ryder Azadi, the former governor of Lothal who was captured by the Empire. He tells Ezra that they had heard Ezra's broadcast and it inspired them to break out of prison where they were unfortunately killed attempting to flee. This has literally got to be one of the biggest gut punches of the whole series, where Ezra learns that it was basically his direct actions that caused his parents to break out of jail and in turn get killed for it. Ezra has another vision of his parents, and Kanan is able to console him a bit by saying that he doesn't believe life ends after death, but merely changes from form, and his parents will always be with him. Kanan and Ezra were then sent to meet Princess Leia to get some reinforcement ships sent by Bail Organa, but they had to make it look like it was stolen and not just given by Alderaan. At the same time, Ryder was then captured by the Empire, and in an effort to free Ryder, they make it look like they took Leia hostage. Together, they were able to work to steal the ships and return Leia in a way that would be least suspicious to the Empire. And even though Ryder previously wanted nothing more to do with the Empire, after seeing how the rebels worked and what good they were doing in the galaxy, Ryder had a change of heart and decided to join the rebellion. Ezra would go on a mission to save Zeb's people, the Lasats, and he actually ended up working with Lasat Force users to guide them to a new world. And then on another mission, he went to a mining world where he learned to use the Force to communicate with Purrgil, which were basically just giant space whales that were able to naturally go into hyperspace. He would meet Hera's father, Hera Syndulla, to help liberate the people of Ryloth, and then he would locate Geonosis to see how the entire population was killed by the Empire in order to hide some sort of secret project. Eventually, Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka would travel back to the Jedi Temple where they would all experience different visions. Having grown significantly as a Jedi Padawan, Ezra was able to now see Master Yoda and had a conversation with him about whether it was wrong to fight in order to protect the people that he loved. Yoda revealed that even he had felt fear before, and it's a lifelong journey to overcome that fear. Yoda ends up telling Ezra to go to the planet Malachor for even more answers. This worried Kanan and Ahsoka though, because they knew this was a place strong in the dark side of the Force and was previously off limits to the Jedi. They reasoned, however, that if that's what Yoda wanted, then there must be something there that would help them. They all stumble into a Sith temple where you can see the bodies of all those who fought in the Jedi-Sith wars on the planet of Malachor. While walking towards the temple, the Inquisitor, the Eighth Brother, appeared, and as they fought, the ground collapsed, sending Ezra further down into the cavern, separating him from Kanan and Ahsoka. He heads towards the temple when he comes across a man in a cloak and a cane, which is then revealed to be Maul.
Call me Old Master.
Maul uses small techniques to make Ezra use the dark side of the Force in order to open doors and obtain a holocron, and tries convincing him to kill the Seventh Sister, though Ezra ultimately refuses that request. Maul tells Ezra that he has to go to the top of the pyramid to access the knowledge, and when Ezra leaves, Maul turns against Kanan and ends up blinding him. When Ezra gets to the top, he is met by Darth Vader. Though before Vader kills him, Ahsoka shows up to fight instead. Ezra is able to touch the tip of the pyramid, but they end up having to leave Ahsoka to fight with Vader on her own as the temple explodes. Many months later, as Kanan has stepped away from his friends to deal with his new blindness, Ezra has built himself a new lightsaber. Unfortunately, this lightsaber no longer has the stun gun attached, which I really liked, but he's been sinking deeper into a connection with the dark side of the Force using that holocron he acquired from the Sith temple and trying to learn any methods he can to save his friends. Sabine even ends up noticing that Ezra is becoming more powerful, but is also using more gray area techniques, like making one pilot kill his stormtrooper comrades and then jump to his own suicide.
When did Kanan teach you that?
He didn't.
When Kanan found Ezra using the Sith holocron, he was pretty angry and ended up taking it for safekeeping. Eventually, Ezra ended up apologizing for using it, but it was clear that he was feeling a bit abandoned by Kanan, and these last few months it felt like it was his fault for Kanan becoming blind. Kanan told him that he would always be there for him though when he needed it, which repaired their relationship for the most part. A bit later though, Kanan and Ezra learned that the rest of the Spectre crew had been taken hostage by Maul, who demanded they return the Sith holocron as well as Kanan's Jedi holocron. Kanan and Ezra traveled to where Kanan had stashed the holocron, which was actually with a powerful Force wielder named Bendu. Bendu is basically just part of the Force, and I'm not even sure he physically exists, but is more like a projection of the Force. They end up delivering the holocrons to Maul, and together, Ezra and Maul combined the two, which revealed visions for them to witness. Ezra saw two suns and bits of the future, but couldn't exactly make out what it all meant, and at the same time Maul was able to just flee. Later, Ezra would go on a mission to retrieve a priceless heirloom for Hera, and in doing so meet Grand Admiral Thrawn, who would become the main antagonist for the Spectres. They learned that Thrawn had developed a new TIE Defender program on Lothal and decided that they had to take that out because of how big of a threat it was to the rebellion. Just before their mission though, Ezra had a vision of Maul that he thought was real and ended up passing out. When he awoke though, he said that he was fine and continued making preparations for the mission with Kanan. They went to go see Bendu though before the mission when all of a sudden Maul appeared saying he needed a piece of information that Ezra got from the holocron and coerced Ezra into a trip to Dathomir, where he was able to perform a ritual and learn the other bit of information, and Ezra ended up learning that Obi-Wan was still alive. There, they also found the Mandalorian Darksaber, which they took back with them. Later, Ezra would go on a mission with Saw Gerrera and find out that the Empire had built something terrible on Geonosis and then wiped out all of its people. And he would also help Sabine on a mission to reunite her Mandalorian people by training her in lightsaber combat to use the dark saber, and then assisting to overthrow the Mandalorian viceroy to the Empire, Gar Saxon, and rescue Sabine's father. Months later, they would return to Lothal in order to take out Thrawn's TIE Defender factory, but Hera would be captured in the process. Kanan would ask Ezra to take the lead on this rescue mission to save Hera, which I think really shows Kanan's transformation into a Jedi Master at this point. And while they would rescue Hera, Kanan would ultimately sacrifice himself to save the rest of the Spectre crew by containing a blast from destroying their ship. Ezra would go on a mission to save the Jedi Temple on Lothal and find himself entering a portal, where he ended up in the world between worlds. This was basically just time travel, and he would see Ahsoka in the battle against Darth Vader and end up pulling her out of that moment, thus saving her. He really just wants to save his master at this point too, but Ahsoka tells him that he can't, since pulling Kanan out of that moment would kill the rest of the Spectre crew. This moment I think is one that defines Ezra's change to a Jedi Knight by accepting that there are some things that even a Jedi cannot do. Ezra uses his affinity to connect with animals by connecting to some Lothwolves that were powerful in the Force to help them find a safe space from the Empire until the final battle to free Lothal. The rest of the Spectre crew would go on to destroy the Dome, which was the center of galactic control of the Empire on Lothal, but Ezra would stay behind so that he could board Thrawn's ship, taking him out to give the rest of the crew time to plant the explosives on the dome. Aboard the ship, Ezra would then sacrifice himself by connecting with the Purrgil and asking them to come wrap up Thrawn's Imperial Star Destroyer with Thrawn and Ezra aboard and take them into hyperspace, never to be seen again. He left a message aboard the Ghost for all the crew to listen to after he sacrificed himself, saying that there were a lot of possibilities that he saw that could go down and he didn't want it to be this one, but it was really the only way. Most importantly, he told Sabine that he was counting on her for some mysterious reason. Later, Sabine would realize what he was counting on her for was to actually save him and bring him home. So Sabine teamed up with Ahsoka, now dressed in all white, and set out on a mission to save Ezra. We know that currently Ezra has most likely not been found, since in season 2 of The Mandalorian, Ahsoka is still looking for Thrawn, presumably to get to Ezra through Thrawn. But I think this will be a big part of the upcoming Ahsoka series, and possibly even part of The Mandalorian's next season. So hopefully you can understand now a little bit better why I think Ezra is going to be such a big character in the upcoming Star Wars universe. I know this was a really long one, but I think he's just such an important character to know, so I just really wanted to cover all his bases. But let me know, what do you think is going to happen next? Are they going to find Ezra, and is he going to be a big part of the Star Wars universe, or is he just going to be a side character from here on out? But I'm Keegs, and I will catch you all next time for some more Star Wars content.